everyone, and welcome to the November 17th Redevelopment Authority for the City of Oshkosh. Please call the roll.
Birmingham,
Here.
Hintz,
Here.
Stam,
Here.
Lasky,
Here.
Bonnet,
Here.
Belter, Palmieri.
Here. All right, we'll take a motion for approval of the minutes from September 15th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes or corrections? All right, please call the roll on the minutes.
I think we just need a
Voice vote.
vote. Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's been so long since we've been in person.
Right? What to do?
All right, and we have two public hearings this afternoon. The first one is 21-20, approve spot blight designation, approve acquisition of property located at 420 CP Avenue and 0 Broad Street, $150,000. Do we have anyone here from the public to speak on this item? Please step up to the podium over here on the left. And if you could give your name and address, that'd be great.
Kind of in the corner here. Can I move it out a little bit?
Hi, I'm Bill Wyman. I live at 1373 Wagoo Avenue, and I am the president and CEO of the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation. I would like to speak a little bit about the corner of CP and Broad. I believe that property is more appropriate for what is already happening in that area. The Community Foundation has spent years and years developing what I'll call an entertainment area with the Leach Amphitheater. Community Foundation invested a $1 million loan to improve the convention center. The Howard is right around the corner. The Community Foundation invested $1 million into the YMCA, which is around the corner. And I believe that this area of town would be better used for an entertainment type district, and to put a non-entertainment facility in that area I don't think is appropriate. I do think that there could be other options for that piece of property. Don't know what they are right now, but I do think that that's a saleable piece of property for some other facility. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to speak on 21-20? Please.
I am Dan Shetter. I'm from 1698 Marzio Drive in Neenah. Don't hold that against me, but I run the Best Western Premier Waterfront Hotel, general manager, along with the convention center that we have an operating agreement to run the convention center. My real concern is the location that this land is being used for the shelter. Of course, I think anybody in this room knows that we've got a homeless issue in Oshkosh, and we need to come up with some viable solutions. And I know this particular piece of land is being proposed for that. But I want to paint a picture, not too gruesome of a picture, I guess, but some reality to what's going on in the area around the convention center and the hotel. And it's something that we've just kind of become used to over a period of time, I think, and maybe that's not a good thing because it does affect our visitors and travelers into Oshkosh. As Bill mentioned, the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation has invested in the convention center. They also gave a low-interest loan to the hotel to get that development going, which is 9 years ago now. And what we've dealt with a good amount of time is when we're trying to attract people to the convention center, whether it's special events, conferences, guests to the hotel, we're trying to provide them the best experience possible, not just from our own team members, but from a community standpoint. And when it comes to conventioneers and special events, social events, we hear wonderful things about Oshkosh and how they enjoy our city. One of the black spots, though, is what happens around the convention center and around the hotel. And with the pandemic, it might even have become a little more pronounced with the activity in those immediate areas. The sleeping bags that have been supplied, in the past, there's always been activity around the bridge in Riverside Park, homeless activity. It just seems to be a natural magnet. We have had many incidents of the individuals consuming alcohol, which happens throughout the day, quite frankly, especially in the summer months, where people come into the convention center. They'll attempt to get food from a buffet line or attempt to get drinks at a bar. They'll try to talk to wedding couples when people are having their ceremony out on the Riverside Park lawn. We have people in the stairwells of the hotel. Our building's open 24 hours. It's difficult to control for that purpose, and it's a big building, and there's a lot of areas to hide. And it's a safety issue. It has become a concern for our guests from a safety standpoint, become a concern for our team members from a safety standpoint. And I think this location, it's just going to attract more activity in our immediate downtown area. And as sad as it is to say that, because I know there has to be a solution to this, right? There needs to be a location, there needs to be a way to handle this. And a lot of people need to make a difficult decision as to what's right and what makes sense. I just need to paint the picture that these are some of the things we contend with on a regular basis. And when people travel to our community, they want to come to a safe community. And whether it's perception or reality, if they're not feeling safe, that's going to affect whether they come back or not. And when there's activity right outside the windows of the convention center or activity within the building itself or within our hotel, that's a concern. So my point is, if there's an alternate location to be considered, I think that should strongly be considered, where there are maybe other resources to help the homeless population that are all centralized in one area. And I agree with Bill. I don't believe that area is best utilized for this particular use. So, my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else from the public?
I don't need those. Hi, Amy Albright, 5744 Ontario in Buttermore, Executive Director of the Oshkosh Convention and Visitors Bureau. I think this is a very hard decision, and one of the things that I wanted to say today is, regardless of what decision is made or what location is made, I think it is prudent that we accept the fact that we have some of these issues that have been spoken about, and that we work together as a community to address them. So if this is the right location, then I feel we really need to work on this from a visitor perspective, because as much as we all have these issues, it's a big part of our economy here, and I think it would be crazy for us not to think about it. So if this is the right location, I really just plead with everybody that we really look at what is that going to mean for, for Dan and his staff. We have to face reality of what that might mean. So I think at the end of the day, we all want what's best for Oshkosh. I think none of us would be in this room if we didn't. And I think we're all caring and compassionate people and want the best for the neediest in our community. But I think we have to make sure we're looking at the whole picture. So that's what I would say is, I think from a bureau perspective, we just want to make sure that we're looking at the big picture and that we're working together to do the best things for, obviously, for our community, but also for our visitors. Thank you.
I'm Molly Butz, 3880 Crabapple Lane, Oshkosh. Actually wasn't prepared to speak tonight. We were just asked to come and answer questions, but of course I need to speak. And, you know, it's difficult because I live, breathe, and die this situation every day. And so, you know, frontline, talk about a frontline worker, we're there. And so, although I agree with Amy, I think everyone in this room wants what's best for our community. I would invite all of you to come and experience the things that we experience every day. So to go to Dan's point, I think that a 365-day, 50 to 65 bed capacity will help our community. When I go back to the shelter in an hour from now, because we don't have enough people on hand right now because we weren't prepared for the number of people that we're seeing this season, we will have to have anywhere from 35 to 50 people will be standing in the driveway of Most Blessed Sacrament Church tonight, in which we will have 25 people get in for a bed. The remaining 15 to 20 people will stand on the front steps. And my job as the executive director will be to get them a to-go meal and to ask them what they need from their bins, because we store all their belongings. Do you need a hat? Do you need mittens? Do you need a jacket? Do you need a sleeping bag? So unfortunately, the reason that all these sleeping bags have appeared in our community is because we're having to turn 20 people to the streets every night, along with their to-go containers and their forks and their knives and their jackets and everything else. So it's become a job, actually, to look at 20 people, to manage 20 people, and then to figure out how do we accommodate 20 people who thought they were going to get a shower, their laundry done, a bed, a good night's rest, and now how do we get them up to make sure they've gotten to their jobs, their appointments, their responsibilities, because they're trying to make a better life for themselves. So I think the big picture here, and I'll be really honest with you, we have turned away 154 people in the last 4 weeks. That is the most day by day has turned away ever. And it happened in 4 weeks. We turned away 72 times last year in a 6-month period. We had already turned away 72 times by day 14 this season. So I get it. It is a huge problem. We are trying to create a facility to take away that burden from the community so that each night we know where people are. We know that they're safe and secure. We know that our community is safe and secure. We know that our staff is safe and secure. Providing the beds that we know, and it's kind of scary, right? Because we have this set up for a 50-bed shelter and maybe even more. We would have already filled that shelter most nights this year. So we've seen about 2 new people per night since we've opened shelter. So more and more people are becoming homeless in our community. 80% of the people we serve are from Oshkosh, born and raised right here. So I think those are all things that, again, we're all here because we care. This is a big problem, and again, by choosing this, it's about timing. It's about being responsible to the work that we're doing, to the commitment that we've made to the community, to the organization, and to serving our mission. And we just can't go on like this anymore. We just cannot keep going like this. So to answer question, we have opened, of course, you guys know that we moved to a 12-month facility so that we can accommodate everybody during the day now. So we're no longer just an overnight shelter. So now during the day, we do have, I don't want you to feel like we abandon 20 people and send them to the streets. They do get the opportunity to come in then each day and fulfill those basic needs. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Havlick, 1944 West Breeze Drive, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I've got the opportunity to lead the facilities committee for day by day. And one of the biggest challenges is location. And let's be honest, any location that we choose, there are going to be pros and there's going to be cons. So our team looked at 3 core principles as we looked at this entire project. The first one is our location, making sure that we build a shelter where our guests are at and where the needs that they have for the valuable programs that they need. Secondly is the overall security for our guests, for the community, and for our staff. And lastly, we need to be financially responsible. We need to be able to put up a location, build a facility that's going to be financially responsible for the community and for our donors. And when you evaluate those 3 things, and we looked at a variety of different locations, the CB and Broad Street location made the most logical sense for our group to put this shelter in place. We did look at a location to do a renovation, and we looked at it and determined after year 1, with construction costs and increased operating costs, we're about $1.8 to $2 million higher renovating a facility that would have been gifted to us. So again, if you go back on security, location, as well as overall being financially responsible, CP and Broad was where we selected to be and feel like it's a good opportunity for our guests.
Thank you. All right, I believe that includes public comments on the public hearing 21-20. I need a motion and a second on the public hearing.
My motion, which I'm not making quite, would be to defer the decision, but I do have a comment that I want to make. Obviously,
This is just the public hearing.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
the
Yep.
public hearing right now.
1 minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
I'm
No,
gonna-
okay.
I'm just gonna make then a second call for any other public comment. All right,
Another comment, if I've already
Yes.
spoken once?
please.
I'm Bill Wyman. I live at 1373 Wagoo, and I'm the president of the Oshkosh
right.
Area Community Foundation.
We got
My only comment, everything that Molly said is absolutely right on. I do not disagree with anything she said. There's a definite need for homelessness is a problem in this community. There's a lot of different people addressing it in different ways. That I don't disagree with. I do think that there's other places for a shelter. As I said before, the Community Foundation invested in the entertainment side. The Community Foundation also is a big supporter of Salvation Army, which is building a great, beautiful facility right across the street from where the day-by-day warming shelter is now. The Community Foundation also was a heavy investor into a free clinic that is in the same exact building that the homeless shelter is in now. The Community Foundation is also aware of, and I don't know all the details, but of another proposal of just redoing where they are now. The church has offered grievance counseling. Church there. I mean, I'm not here to. I didn't want to come up here and sound like I was opposed to the homeless shelter, because the day-by-day warming shelter does a terrific job.
just not right there,
Just
right?
not right there.
Okay, all right, we got that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, so I want to come back and get a motion and a second on the public hearing so that we can have the discussion.
I would make it, but I don't know what to say.
Uh, We just need a motion so that we can get it on the floor for discussion.
Okay, can I just say so moved?
Yes.
Okay, so moved.
All right. We have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, now discussion, Mr. Hintz,
If we
please.
so choose,
Okay.
we can redact it.
A couple of observations. First, there really seem to be some big issues with regard to location. And again, I appreciate that everybody perceives the need to address homelessness there. But obviously, there are a variety of contending thoughts about where it should be. And somehow they need to be addressed. However, this is not something that the RDA is asked to do. We basically are asked to accept at some appropriate time the offer from the housing authority to sell the property to us for $150,000, and then to, at some appropriate time, nicely linked in the memo by our executive director, sell the property and transfer it to the day-by-day warming shelter for $1. Now, one thing that we need to realize is that while these two issues, two areas are related to each other, if we vote yes, then basically we are, providing payment for a specific site for the day-by-day shelter. If we say no, we're really not precluding anything other than the fact that either that the day-by-day shelter would either have to deal with the housing authority, and there are a couple of possibilities. One is that the housing authority would lower its price for the land. Another possibility is that day by day simply raises an extra $150,000 to be able to, purchase the land there. So they're two very different areas, but our decision is really a pretty limited one in terms of
Correct.
what's going to happen there. Frankly, I would prefer to defer the vote for a variety of reasons. I really do think that the various parties on the substantive issue need to get together and talk a little bit more about what's an appropriate way to handle this.
Well, let's just remind folks too, today we're dealing with a very limited scope, which is the spotlight designation and the acquisition of the property. As I understand it, that's coming from CDBG dollars, Community Development Block Grant dollars. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So I appreciate that. Other folks, discussion?
Well, thank you, Steve. I don't disagree with anything that you said. However, I just, and I absolutely agree with what our role is in this matter. I do have a question, and that is wouldn't it be appropriate at some point as the RDA to allow the market to play into this property disposition as well? And if we were to acquire the property for $150,000, to open it up to RFP and to see what type of proposals we could get, including the homeless shelter by day.
I wouldn't be able to use CDBG funds because I have specific CDBG funds allocated for a public facility to serve LMI people. So I couldn't buy it and
No.
then do an RFP.
Okay.
And the
So the
other,
decision really is tied together.
Correct.
So the funding would be tied to,
The CDBG requirements.
so in
the
a sense,
analysis
if we're,
of impediments to fair housing choice, correct?
Yes, so it's one of the national objectives, to support LMI individuals. And that's what we tied to this one that was approved in our action plan for this year. And then HUD approved that and they allocated those funds to us to use for that purpose. So we wouldn't be able to purchase it from the housing authority with that $150,000 and then go to RFP. It would have to go directly towards a use or an organization that would use it for its intended use that we had in our action plan.
Okay. However, does the RDA have funds besides those block grants in order to be able to do this on our own if we wanted to see some type of economic development happen in that area?
We have funds, yes.
Okay. So if we didn't accept those funds for this particular purpose, in theory, the RDA could choose to purchase the property and then put it out for RFP and see what rose to the surface, correct? In a
Correct.
competitive process. And I think that's also, I think, what our role is as an RDA, to see what kind of economic benefits we can create with redevelopment land.
And that would be just to take a step back. I mean, that the housing authority still owns it, so they would actually have to still agree to sell it for that. So that
Absolutely.
with the use maybe changing, I can't guarantee that price would still be $150,000 if we're gonna veer away from the intended use of the day-by-day warming shelter.
Okay, because
So that's something I have never talked to them about, so I don't want to
totally
go down that
understandable,
road.
Kelly.
Yeah.
And in the background that I read, it was kind of stated that there's not a use and there hasn't and won't be a
They
use
don't
for
have an
it.
intended use for it, but
Okay.
it's been something that former staff that I was not involved with, but it's been talked with the housing authority in day by day since I think 2017. It's some emails and notes that I can find from previous employees that have worked here.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I just wanted to say that I think there are alternatives to this proposal to actually get this done as well.
Archie.
Yeah, I have not seen in the past where we've just been used as a conduit to get funds from one organization to another, so I'm confused by that whole deal, the RDA role in that.
We're not,
Which is on our agenda actually for a later discussion, right?
yeah, we're not giving them funds.
No, we're just a conduit.
Working
Yeah,
through.
and sometimes, we have been in the past, not specifically for this type of use, but there's been other times where, we've purchased property and wanting to see a redevelopment or some sort of development. And with this situation, it's just utilizing those CDBG funds for this specific intended purpose. But yeah, it's definitely, it's something that we haven't done before with this specific way.
It's almost like designated funds, though. They've told us the only place we can spend it is here.
No, I mean, you're saying they, meaning like CDBG?
Mhm.
Yeah, it could be for anywhere in Oshkosh, but we'd have specific requirements. And right now, the CP Broad location, it meets all those requirements because that's what we've planned for. But if there would be a different location where we could acquire it for $150,000, we could potentially utilize these funds for that.
Kelly, I just want to ask, do you, by chance, is there anything in the packet that breaks down the criteria for meeting blight and slum statutes? Do we have anything here or maybe in the binder that you could read for that purpose, since this is a limited scope spot blight designation?
Typically, I'm just, sorry, I have the state statute right here, so let me find it, but it's an underutilized property that, it could be vacant, it could have a dilapidated building on it. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and typically, depending what area it's in, if it's in a lower income area, or where property values are low, typically those are some of the parameters that are used to define it as blight.
And we feel that this property meets those definitions?
We do.
Anyone else? Sue, did you have anything you wanted to discuss with this?
Well, I had questions before Steve spoke. And I think he did a really good job in explaining what our role in this is. My problem is that whatever we decide is gonna either positively or negatively impact someone in this room. So having worked in that area for 25 years before I retired, driving down CP and turning onto Broad Street to the Hooper Community Center, that location has been vacant for a long, long time. I mean, it was an old building that had like one tenant in it for years, or two tenants in it for years, and then it was torn down. And and it's sat empty and been used for parking for the leach by somebody who's, making money off that. And I get what everyone's saying, but we also haven't made an effort to develop that property.
Well, it's not our property.
Right, right, but I mean, the city
Yeah.
as a whole. And I'm not saying city as in government, but
Okay.
anybody in the city. So if we're gonna use it for entertainment, then somebody needs to get on the stick and work towards that. Or it's just gonna stay vacant.
Well, I guess, one of the things that I think about is this body also made a decision, based on proposals that we got south of the river in the Sawdust District, which, in my understanding is in the works and has started to become an entertainment district, a mixed-use district, and most of our central city is mixed use, includes entertainment, tourism, residents, low income, high income, diverse backgrounds. And one of the things that I think that we have come to understand is that we don't dictate to private entities who are, and the housing authority being a public entity, but they are the owner of the land. For example, council often gets emails from folks, well, we don't need another, car parts store or another storage unit, and if it's a permitted use, then, we're not telling them no. And the plan commission gets involved with some of the more like land use issues. But going back to what was brought up, we have been this, I guess, land bank pass-through organization in prior situations. And today, the two items on this public hearing that we're looking at specifically again is it blighted? And are we going to approve the acquisition? So if there is not further discussion, does someone want to call for the vote?
I would like to comment.
Yes.
I would like to actually propose a different, I'd like to change this to not have to be linked to have to use the CBDG, block grant, and to purchase it with available RDA funds to offer the most flexibility that we have to create the potential for an economic benefit. One of the things that having a nonprofit operate on the site creates is it's a non-taxable entity, correct?
And that's been the history because the housing authority is nonprofit.
And so if we have the opportunity to purchase this from the housing authority, and if they were to agree at the price, using non-block grant funds, I'd rather have that flexibility.
So I guess.
So I'd like to make that motion.
The question is, okay, so you're offering a motion to amend a public hearing. Is that permissible?
Or to specify within it.
Because to a certain degree, how this is written,
It doesn't specifically call out,
we're using those funds, but
it-
that's kind of where,
I mean,
if
it
we are,
has-
then we're kind of forced down that path.
it has it on the bottom, yeah, where it says, where the funds would be coming from. So we do have that, so we would have to, if we wanted to say it's from scattered sites or, South Main Street, we'd have to look to see if we have funding and, how much funding we have in those, or if we'd have to wait for 2022 the budget to come through. The only other thing I'll just warn you is we do have that approved in our plan. So now I'm gonna have to find something else to use this funds for, and we don't have a lot of flexibility.
However, if this location wasn't selected, there was comments made that these funds could still be used for the
They could,
purposes at a
if
different
another one
location.
was selected. We
Understood.
have about 3 years to use the funds.
Thank you.
So,
I'm
yeah.
interested in hearing other people.
Well,
So if I understand, you're making a
I'd like
motion to amend
Specify, well, however we need to
to
specify
be it
that.
further resolved. And I'm asking
You could amend it to, I mean, the wording would be the same. It would just be a motion to, maybe add a note or change it where it wouldn't be CDBG funding. It would be, we could just call it CIP funding for right now.
Because procedurally, I'm almost
'Cause we-
inclined for us to discuss a bifurcation of the determination of spot blight.
Yep, because and that's what the public hearing is for, yeah.
The acquisition question,
I
but I
mean,
don't know if we
you
can
can
do
break
it in a
it-
public hearing. Can we break it out into two?
Yeah, you should be able to break it out.
Okay. Does that suit your need?
Yeah, I just didn't want to be locked into something that I felt kind of tied our hands.
Steve?
I'm gonna vote against everything, and I'm gonna make a motion that we defer it to either the next meeting or the meeting after that, and do it right, sort it out, get some other people talking to each other. And if you're prepared, I don't know whether we've got another motion on the floor right now.
We have that motion on the floor. We don't have a second yet.
I'm prepared to retract my
Withdrawing your motion?
in lieu of Steve's motion to kick this forward and get our stuff organized.
So you're making a motion to lay over the entire
Yeah.
public hearing?
I note in the instructions that essentially we have the latitude of 2 meetings.
I mean, potentially, the intention was to start in spring of '22.
Correct.
So let's just say that's mid-March. We have a meeting in March scheduled and in January. Obviously, we could have a special meeting, but as I noted in there, we will have to come back to approve selling it to day by day. So if we are going to go through with that motion, Mr. Hintz, I just want you to clarify what you want staff to do, because I don't know if you read through the whole packet, but they have received zoning approval from the city council and their general development plan approval, and they just submitted their site implementation approval for this site. So council has gone through it and made those, those approvals. So I just want to make sure I know what we need to do to come together.
I'm not sure that you have to do much of anything at this point. I think we need to communicate to various groups in the community that we'd like to have a good robust consideration of the site. I think our role is a fairly limited role, as I outlined, but obviously it has implications that go, much further than that.
Sue?
If we follow Jason's train of thought to open it up, we would still need to know whether or not the housing authority would sell it for the 150. So that would be something that the city staff would need to do, is to find out whether or not this 150,000 is conditional to the current
The use.
proposal.
Or what
Or
we would,
if they would be willing to still sell it at the 150 and open it up to anyone. Because if we did that, they might look at it and say, well, no, we want more for it then. You don't know.
I don't know.
So you have to ask.
Yeah.
So I think that would be one thing that the staff would need to follow up on.
Is is it Kuzik, the new housing authority director?
He is not here.
Okay. Is he available? Or did he know that
He
this
knew
could-
about it, yeah.
Okay.
Is there any written agreement with the city right now, with the housing authority?
No, because I don't have permission to enter into an agreement.
Got it.
So, yep. It's just been discussed.
But as was stated, council
Sure.
did approve the other parts to this, so, bear in mind that the RDA is, taking a different path than what the council has approved.
That's why we exist.
I hear you.
Make their own independent decisions.
All right, so we have the motion to defer until the next meeting. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion on the motion to defer? All right, let's take the roll.
Birmingham,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
Lasky,
Aye.
Sonic,
Aye.
And Palmieri.
No.
Motion carries 5-1.
Okay. We are now,
Just, I guess, a point of,
Yes.
I know you said it's nothing that the city staff has to do, but I want to make sure I know what am I bringing back? Am I bringing back the same thing? Because it was just to defer it to the next meeting.
Well, my thought is that it would be changed to not have the funding, if it's still able to be purchased at the $150,000, not tied to CDBG funding, so that the next step would be to go to RFP. Make sure it's being redeveloped.
But is also the question, splitting out the blight designation from the other piece of it?
I mean, we can certainly do that. Typically, we keep them together just so there's less agenda items, but for the next meeting, we can break it out.
I mean, that's why I voted yes,
Oh.
because I was
Okay.
thinking that that's what we would do.
Yeah, I think the whole item was deferred to the next meeting.
so the number 3, the public hearing 21-20, the entire public hearing is deferred or laid over, but the intent that I understood was to separate out or bifurcate the spotlight designation from the approval of the acquisition. And I don't know if there's something that statutorily requires that. They be
We'll
together.
look into it, sure.
And then I guess the other question would be whether or not we would have a special meeting for that.
Sure.
Okay. Folks, are you prepared to do that? Okay. Do you need anything else on this item, Ms. Nyforth?
I don't think so.
All right. All right, we do have item number 4, public hearing 21-21, approve spotlight designation, approve acquisition of property located at 1203 South Main Street for $36,000.
Yeah, you guys can.
Thank you.
We'll let the room clear. Do we have anyone here to speak on
Then we do.
21-21?
So I don't envy you.
21-21.
21-21, approved spotlight designation and acquisition of property located at 1203 South Main Street. Seeing no public comment, we'll take a motion and a second on, I'm sorry, I need to call that again. Second call for public hearing, public comment on 21-21.
So, this is that
Is there a
car lot,
second right
right?
now?
We need a motion and a second.
All right,
I'll move it.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Thank
All
you.
right, now
And
discussion,
this
go
is the
ahead.
car lot, right?
Correct. Yeah, they
Okay.
took down the building, actually. I don't know if we have a picture of the vacant spot now in our aerial photo. That's from 20, but that building is gone.
And is the house, the one next to it, the house that broke in half?
Yep, and that's currently, the city is working with them. They obviously
Awesome.
have some code violations, so,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you. I thought so. I passed it today. I passed it
Yeah.
every day, so I just,
Yep.
I thought that was,
So that does have a raise order.
okay, good.
So that big building that's across the street, is that the arena?
That's correct.
Thank you. Got to start marking things.
Yeah.
This is great. We've always talked about owning property in this area, so I think it's,
Yeah.
Yeah, and the receiver of the property reached out to us. So Mark and Sean have been working with them, and I think you'll see in the memo, we had worked and talked with AECom, so they didn't find anything too, concerning, and we do have EPA funding that we can use to do those phase 1s, phase 2s, and site investigation.
awesome.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear, did you say the building's already down?
Correct, yeah, this
Okay.
photo's from April of 2020, so if you would go by today, it's
I'm just
vacant.
looking at the resolution, so item, under the now therefore, that the existing structure would be demolished.
Oh, sure, yep, no,
So
that's
it's
an error on
already-
our part. Yep, it will be demolished, or it is demolished. So that was another reason that we don't have to demolish it, so.
And
One-
I also, just for future reference, sorry, too, noticed that that was also in the previous,
Okay,
item, that there was an existing building.
Right.
I think it's already written.
sure. Typically, that's kind of just, yeah, language that we included all of it, but yeah, we can change it based on what the item is.
I don't have a problem purchasing it, but do we need to?
What was that?
Do we need to? I mean, would somebody just Purchases, put a house up?
Well, I mean, there is some environmental issues,
There are.
so somebody would have to deal with that.
Have we done the phase one, you said?
We have not, but we talked with AECom. I won't do it until I know that we're going to purchase it.
Okay.
So I have not done it, but we did some researching on the state's website
Then I
and,
have no problem
yeah.
purchasing. I was just curious. No, not that much.
All right, if there's no further discussion, please call the roll on 2121.
Birmingham,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
Lasky,
Aye.
Sonic,
Aye.
and Palmieri.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, and we are at 21-22, approve offer to purchase 422 Otter Avenue, Megan Bus for $4,500.
So moved.
Second.
Was there anyone here to speak from the public on this item?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, discussion.
There's an existing house?
There is not. It has been demoed.
And this is one where they are looking at purchasing this for extension of their space.
Yeah, they own the house just to the north on the corner of Wagoo and Broad, and they don't have that much yard in the back there. Their driveway actually comes off of Broad, so it would just be an extension of their property, so they have a little bit more space.
Why can't the two parcels be combined? I don't understand that.
It doesn't meet our subdivision code, so we can't have parcels where it has like two street fronts.
Our
Mark?
subdivision code
Yeah.
specifically does not permit, in this case, it's really against our code, through lots, so entirely from Wagoo to Otter. It also doesn't permit triple frontage lots. In this case, it's a through lot and a triple frontage lot. So legally, our subdivision code does not allow the combination of them.
I guess one of the things I was a little bit confused about is looking at this item, item 5 and item 6, seems to be a similar situation, but there's a significant difference in recommended purchase price.
Sure.
And I know that's a little preliminary, but I'm trying to process this as to why we would have such a significant difference in the assessment of the lots. There's not a huge difference in the size, as I understand it, is there?
The Otter Street one is smaller, but we do work with our city assessor to look at the fair market value of these lots, which we have to do because it was acquired with CDBG funding, so we have to sell them for fair market value. The one on Liberty Street, it's in I'd say it's a newer neighborhood, not as new as, but newer than this area. So just the value of that property there is higher, just because of the location, and it is a little bit larger.
Well, if this can't be combined, it would also degrade the value of the lot, wouldn't it? I mean, you can't build on it, obviously, right?
It would be extremely difficult to build on it. You could not build a code compliant home on a lot that's narrow and on a corner.
Does she understand that? Because in her letter, she says that I also considered building a single-family home on the land. Only time will tell what will work best.
I think, Sean, do you want to pop up? You've had conversations with her. She understands that.
No, it says to keep.
No,
it
she understands that. I mean,
vacant.
Mark, you said she could not build a lot.
In her letter.
You're on it.
Well-
Oh,
Yeah, you could not build a code compliant home because of the narrow width of that lot.
So it could be built. It would just have to, it wouldn't meet all codes, but we would just have to work with her
Well,
through
my
the city
question was, does
process.
she understand that it would have some issues? Because in her letter, she says one thing, but then the other stuff says it would just be landscaped.
Well, for right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been advised about a through lot. She's been advised she can't build an accessory building on that parcel, which also would not be compliant with our code.
So, Sean, this letter from her to you is November 7th, where she, as Sue pointed out, says, I also considered building a single-family home. Was that conversation before or after she sent you this letter?
This is after.
Okay.
Well, there's been a variety of people that contact our office regarding these property sales throughout the community. So she was an individual that I spoke with on the phone about a month prior, and that's this letter arrived on November 7th. So there were some conversations in that month prior and following up after the fact, reminded of the limitations of property use.
I mean, if you read the rest of the letter, they were making improvements to the Victorian home. So it doesn't look like she would build another building on it, but I just questioned that statement. And if she would have the understanding that probably not likely.
I know some of the planning staff has had discussions with related to this property and had that same discussion about the limitations of how hard it would be to build on.
Yeah, I guess I would just, trust that staff makes that very clear before they sign anything.
Yeah, no, we will follow up with her again and make sure that she's fully aware, and maybe Sean, you could set up a meeting with Mark or planning staff to go over that specifically.
All right, any further discussion on this item? Please call the roll.
Birmingham,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Stam,
Aye.
Pulaski,
Aye.
Bonnet,
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, our next item is item 6, 2123, approve offer to purchase 1628 Liberty Street, Shirley Stadmuller for $14,500. Do we have anyone here to speak to that item? Seeing none, I'll take a motion in a second.
I move 21-23.
Second.
All right, discussion.
So this looks like someone independent looking to buy it and invest.
Yeah, I think she has a family member that lives on one of the adjacent properties on Western. Sean, if you can jog my memory on this one.
Yeah, her child and his family own a property immediately behind it on Western. So she's looking to purchase it as an investment property. And she, again, is fully aware of the city subdivision code, that they wouldn't be able to combine the parcel all the way through. They won't be able to put a fence on it. She's looking at it as an extended backyard for her children and grandchildren, and with the ability to sell it someday for the development of this family home.
Again, it references they may build a home on it in the future, so.
Mm-hmm. And this one would be, it is a little bit bigger lot, so they would have a little bit more flexibility rather than the otter one, but it is, they just, as this time, they're not committing, saying they're gonna build it like right now.
At 50 feet in width in a non-corner lot in SR9, it is, you're not building a large home on there, but it is significantly easier to build on than the prior property.
Okay.
Double wide.
All right, any further discussion on number 6? Please call the roll.
Birmingham,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Stam,
Aye.
Pulaski,
Aye.
Bonnet,
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, item number 7, 21-24, approve offer to purchase 672 Jefferson Street, Hazy Holdings LLC for $8,000. Is there anyone here to speak to this item? All right, we'll take a motion in a second.
I'll move 21-24.
I'll second.
Go ahead.
I'll second.
All right, discussion. Looks like we purchased this for $47,000 CDBG dollars. And we're able to sell it for this lower amount regardless.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's, yeah. And that they do have plans to build a duplex right away.
Good.
Was this tied once upon a time to everything across the street?
Across the street, yep, if you see in that map, we own everything across the street. But
That's the one that was demolished this past year, right? 672?
It might have been a few years,
might have been, yeah,
not
The vacant lot.
relatively recent.
yeah.
The land bank. The land bank. The Lions get excited about that big parcel, so.
Okay.
It's like playing a board game.
Okay.
Right?
All right, please take the roll.
Birmingham,
Aye.
Vince,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
Lasky,
Aye.
Ponick, O'Meary.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, this is developer presentations for the 100 block of West Sixth Avenue proposal, part 2. We did not have a quorum previously. We do have a quorum tonight, so thank you for your patience. And the first one is Acquire Restoration. And please provide your name and address when you speak. Thank you.
Hello again.
Aye.
I'm Jeff Edmonds, 1609 Warehorse Creek, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I'm the president of Acquire Restoration. Obviously, we're located on the highway next to the Mall. We primarily fix bad properties and make them good. We recently built a new home on 8th Avenue, and I got to thinking, it's called Sean, talking about all the vacant lots. This lot in question, I'm proposing to put a 4-plex townhome on that parcel, similar to the townhomes that are behind Main Street or the Roxy. Those individual units that have their separate entrances, separate driveway, separate garage underneath. Each unit will consist of about 1,400 or 1,600 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. There needs to be significant stormwater improvement on the site due to the city of Oshkosh's policies and procedures over there. So I've gotten quotes, rough quotes to upgrade the stormwater utility. I had to cut into the road all the way across the other side of the street, dig down, upgrade the lateral, provide more inlets so I can control the stormwater off my property. I know the asking price is $27,000. I'm going to incur over $50,000 just in excavation and utility work for the stormwater alone, and that's before touching a shovel in the ground for excavating. So I was being respectful with the $5,000 offer, just because I don't want to offer you guys $1 for the lot, because I'm gonna the tax value of this parcel after my work is, or after the apartments are completed, it'll be approximately $750,000. So I own a property on Oregon Street. It's commercial property as well. So I grabbed my tax bill from the Oregon Street property, did a little quick calculation, and the tax that I came up with on a $750,000 parcel or $750,000 building on this parcel would be approximately $19,500 a year, if the calculations are the same for zoning and everything else. I own a property at 2721 Oregon, so I used that in comparison and then did the math, and so the difference in the $27,000 to $5,000 offer the $22,000 difference in the offer would ultimately be caught up in 1 year of tax base. So, and in my opinion, that area, I know there's development going on, or hoping to go on, towards the east of 6th Ave or by Main Street, where they're putting up all those units, apartments, those high-end apartments. But this area that significantly needs housing to support the local businesses, whether it's the granary or Green's Poorhouse, Dockside. I mean, Beckett's, the riverfront there. I mean, there's no houses in this 4-block radius. The closest house is probably on 8th Street, and the townhomes are on 8th Street, and otherwise you have to cross Oregon Street and another block before you get any population of people. So I just figured a fourplex townhome. I wanted to go 5, but I allowed the developer on the 6th and Oregon to take that 50-foot parcel. So I was being a fair neighbor, hopefully. So they can build a set of garages for those apartments that they're redeveloping in that building right now. And so I just think it'd be a good parcel to have additional nicer living that's close to the Riverwalk and close that can frequent the establishments that are there. I hope to get like $1,500 to $1,600 rent per month, in my opinion. That's what my goal is. And I wouldn't be able to sell it anytime in the near future, because the comparable properties in the neighborhood, I would never be able to get my money back out of it until the surrounding neighborhood got developed, until the empty parcels across the road and maybe that Main Street crazy apartment complex that is supposedly going up. So that's getting developed. I'm never gonna get my money back out of it if I go to sell it. So I'll be a landlord, and I don't want to be a landlord, but that's my proposed use. So
Okay. Thank you.
Question?
Any questions for Mr. Evans?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Seaman Real Estates.
Hi, my name is Brian Seaman. Live at 3569 Sandpit Road, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. We have recently purchased Automotive Specialists, and this lot was available at the time that we purchased Automotive Specialists. We are looking to expand the parking lot and to possibly put up a new building in the future. After talking to Sean, he told us that we could not attach the building to the building that we have pre-existing. So this would be something we would put a building up separate from the building that we already have. So to put in a parking lot would be to increase the parking lot that we have now, which is very small. So we don't have to park nothing on the street, and then customer parking can be up front. The parking lot would be paved, and the building that we would like to put up in the future would probably be about a $500,000 building. So it'd be a drive-through from both one side of the street of 7th all the way to 6th, and we would keep that area fenced in. And I was actually gonna pay the asking price of $27,000.
Just a question for Mr. Lyons. Are we able to do those dual access if there's the two streets?
So for commercial, if they combine it all into a single corner parcel, I'd have to look. I think commercial rules are obviously different than what we have for residential. The number of access points I'd have to verify. So you own that lot at 416 to this, or 614?
Yes.
To the south as well?
Yep, we actually own Automotive Specialists, the 614
Which
Oregon.
is the lot on the vacant.
I'm sorry, can you
Can
point that
you
out?
clarify, what's that?
Sorry, I'm looking at GIS.
On the corner of 6th, the northeast corner of 6th.
Yeah, they own
Or
Oh,
7th,
okay, on
I'm sorry,
7th.
7th.
Okay.
Oh, got it.
7th in Oregon, okay.
I would have to verify that. That is a bit of a unique shaped parcel if we combine those. And I would have to look into it a little closer to make sure we don't have any, we have some width to depth ratios that have to be maintained. I just want to make sure we don't have any issues there.
So are we talking the dark green line, the fat green line, and the skinny green line? Okay, what's the skinny green line?
Do you mind if I walk up there?
Yes.
So go ahead.
That's been already sold.
Oh, okay.
This is what we already purchased from Mark Royer.
Right.
And then this parcel was the whole thing. This piece got sold to this gentleman here that bought this.
Okay.
So we're looking to purchase all of this. We'll put a parking lot in and to put up a different building in the future. And there is a Coach Apron here, and there is one here, but we wouldn't want to use this one. We would just want to use this Coach Apron here.
Oh, I see, okay. I misunderstood. I was
Yeah,
looking
so-
at the middle of the block there.
So instead of, we don't want cars, just normal traffic to pass through, so this whole area would be fenced in and gated like it is here. It's a sliding gate. This one would have the same thing on this end of the sliding gate, so that we would be the only ones able to travel through.
Okay, all right, thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, so the other gentleman told us what the taxes that we would collect would be. Do you have any idea what?
Well, and $500,000, just the building would be about $500,000 once you figure out the commercial development of it, and then you gotta bring everything up to code for commercial. The parking lot, I don't know the price of what the asphalt would cost for that, but probably, you're probably gonna be, it'd be close to what he wants to build. I don't think it would be the exact number, but he would be close. We already, the property that we did purchase from Automotive Specialists, that's already on your tax base. So this would just increase the commercial part of the tax base more than what you have now.
Mr. Hintz?
Do you have any thoughts about what kind of a building and for what purpose you're planning in the future?
Basically, be a separate building from what it is now. So we would want to maybe do possible quick lube alignment
Okay,
with a
it
car
would be
wash on it.
affiliated with Automat,
Right.
Automotive
Yeah.
Service. Good, thank you.
Yes.
A question, Ellie. How is this zoned right now? Is it both commercial, residential, whatever?
Urban mixed use.
Yeah.
Urban mixed use. Okay.
And I just want to point out, this is our South Shore redevelopment plan, and this is something that the RDA put together with city staff, so this is part of our redevelopment district. So in here, we have proposed land use, and in it, this area in question is mixed commercial residential. And in my memo, I did state, that when we think commercial, it's more uses that are compatible with residential uses. So is it retail, is it office? So I just want you to be aware of, this is, kind of our guidance of how we should be moving forward with redevelopment in this South Shore redevelopment area. Mark, do you have anything to add?
I just want to double check some land uses quick.
Okay.
It's not tabbed out as well.
There's no more questions for me, is there?
No, I think we're good for now, right? Okay, just looking up a couple of things there. So, we've heard the offer for residential and the offer for the commercial. Is there any further discussion that we want to have amongst ourselves on this, or shall we call a vote on each?
I think that's the way it's set up, right?
Yep.
Yep. Mark, did you have anything you wanted to share before we jump to the next
Just
item?
Wanted to take a peek very quickly. Urban mixed use. The first gentleman's project would be a by right permitted land use, and you could potentially need PD if we have to figure out certain aspects of that one. But the base land use is allowed. Second gentleman, drive-through vehicle sales and service, also is a permitted use. So you view both of those. That is one of our districts in the urban setting that allows both the residential and non-residential uses.
Well, I know that, we are seeing some more residential development coming up in that kind of general area between the T-Wall project and then also the Wiesenberg project on the next block. I'm starting to kind of, put my planner hat on here, and the access to, automotive service and repair, and I don't recall, he mentioned the price point on the acquire restoration for the residential. Was that rent of 1,500, I think?
I think he said.
Mm-hmm. And it's townhomes, it sounds like, because that's what's over on Division, and that's a type of unit that our housing study, which we will be talking about soon, but we do know that there's a gap in that. We're calling that the missing middle, where it's a type of housing product that we don't have for folks that maybe don't want to be in an apartment setting, but they're not quite ready, for that house. So, and it is a use that is something that is an identified that we need in the community, or type of housing, excuse me. I guess I just want to make sure that folks understand, the future land use is mixed commercial residential. So, when thinking about the two different proposals, to make sure, and I think, Mark, I know you were out last week, but talking to some of your planners, you said generally, the uses, if it's commercial, it's more, uses that are compatible with residential uses. So that's offices, retail, kind of low intensity.
Yeah, the urban mixed use district generally tries to blend non-residential uses those that are compatible with residential uses, so low intensity commercial. Office type settings. You're trying to strike that balance in that zoning district of compatible residential, non-residential. Not looking for real intense commercial typically.
So is there a recommendation by the city?
If I had to recommend one offer, I would probably go with the housing, just because, you know, we know that there's a need for housing in the area, and the type of use, you know, with the car, the automotive, I'm not sure if that's compatible or, you know, is in line with our redevelopment plan.
Can we go back to the former slide, the overhead on
Yep.
GIS? So this is all commercial surrounding there right now, is that correct? And then residential to the west on Oregon, is that right?
To the west on Oregon, that's the Morgan, yeah, there's no residential to the west on
It's all
Oregon.
commercial.
It's all
Yeah, this is
commercial.
all
Oh,
commercial.
just past the Oregon building, then I think it gets into the residential homes, the single family, along 6 there.
Off screen.
Yeah, off the screen, yes.
Next Schwab on the corner of 6 Oregon. So behind Schwab is.
Yep,
is residents.
yeah, behind their parking lot there.
And then 617 Oregon, that's mixed use, right? There are apartments above I think that's vacant commercial space right now.
Definitely commercial on the first floor. I'm not sure about apartments on the upper. But then, we did sell that quarter of the property, to 600 Oregon Street, where she's going to, I think, develop 3 or
Yes,
4
residential,
apartments.
yep.
Residential, so
And
starting
a commercial on the base, on the first floor.
first floor, yes.
All right, well, let's take a vote on option I, acquire restoration. That was for $5,000.
We can only vote yes once, right?
Yes, all
Actually,
nice
try, Lasky.
I mean, unless somebody would like to make a different proposal.
No, I mean, this is this is a good, this is interesting. It's a good competitive usage.
So we have to
I
move.
just want to ask one other question of Mr. Seaman, if I could. With the automotive use there and some of the considerations about some of the residential, what would you do with the property to mitigate like noise? I'm assuming you have typical business hours, but are there operations that would disturb the peace, if you will?
Are you talking like after hours? The shop is open, I get there at 7:30 in the morning and I leave at 6. And there's nobody there after that. So if you're talking for like evening being disturbed, that doesn't happen. No Saturdays, no Sundays. So
Okay.
the business is only open 5 days a week, 7:30. The doors are open 7:30 to 5:30. I stay there till 6 if any day.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's, does someone want to move a specific item of these two?
I move 2125, offer to purchase, acquire restoration.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion on that item? Please call the roll.
Birmingham,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Sam,
No.
Lasky,
Aye.
Sonic,
Aye.
and Palmieri.
No.
Motion carries 4-2.
Okay. So acquire restoration it is.
We still need to do
We still
item
need to do
10.
the vote.
I move 2126.
I'll second.
All right, discussion on the offer to purchase Seaman Real Estates. Discussion on this item. All right, call the roll.
Birmingham,
No.
Hintz,
No.
Sam,
Yes.
Lasky,
No.
Sonic,
No.
and Palmieri.
Aye.
Motion fails.
fire restoration is the intended path here for the residential. Thank you for attending. 21.
Thank you. Congratulations.
21-27, approve redevelopment authority bylaws.
This is something we discussed at the last meeting, just to update the bylaws since we don't believe they've been updated since. So we took a look at it, worked with our city attorney, and I believe Mayor Palmieri, we had sat down and talked about some of those items too in September. So just pretty much cleaning up, and she did include her red line version, so it does have some of the changes, and mostly just changing some of the the pronouns where it was he and she and that sort of thing, more to the executive director, and then removed a few items that just are not applicable.
2021 pronouns, I like it.
There you go.
I move
21, 27.
21, 27.
Second.
All right, discussion? I do have one question, and I thought that city attorney was going to be here today for us regarding this. Is she?
She's not here right now, but we can, is there
Okay.
a certain,
One thing, and I'm not even sure that this would be addressed in the bylaws or the ordinance that created being amended, but I did want to ask, because it relates to how we operate, and, there have been a couple of times where our quorum has maybe been a little bit dicey. We've not had quorum, whether or not we're able to put into the bylaws, or we would have to amend our ordinance that created the RDA to allow for an alternate or two alternates. And I apologize for the lateness of introducing that question, but I just got this in the packet too. So
sure.
I don't know if others want to have that discussion or not in relation to if we're able to add it.
Yeah, and I can certainly reach out to our city attorney and see, what path we would have to take to include that, or if we even can, we'd have to go back to the state statutes.
If this is appropriate discussion for, our bylaws and our operating.
I did have a question. Do we allow for electronic voting?
I don't believe we have that.
I couldn't find it anywhere, but is there a state statute or anything that does not allow us to do that? And that's where I'm.
Do you mean by via email or?
Yeah.
Didn't we have that come up recently with another board, Mr. Lyons?
You'd be able to vote, be absent and vote essentially.
Right.
I do not recall. I'd have to go back and.
I could address your quorum issue.
I'd really.
My recollection, and I want to verify this, is there are certain things it is permissible in. There's certain things it's not. Quasi-judicial matters.
Cannot.
Right, no, cannot.
Right.
If they are more of administrative matters, I believe there is some limited capacity for those type of things, but I want to verify with city.
Yeah, it's not included in our bylaws, but it would be, probably have to go back to the city ordinance and when it was created, or even the state statutes.
Okay.
So that would be something else. We'll at least bring it forward to let everybody know what the status is.
So this is kind of house cleaning, cleanup with this. It hadn't been visited since the creation, right?
Correct.
All right, does anyone have any other further discussion, or shall we call the roll? All right,
Well,
yes?
if we call the roll, we can always revise them later,
I
correct?
can bring it back to the
Yeah,
next
okay.
one. Yeah, absolutely.
Make additional changes.
Yep.
Revision, sure.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, please call the roll.
Birmingham,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
Lasky,
Aye.
Sonic,
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
And item 7 is the 2021 redevelopment budget and financials, and I'll just turn that right over to
Sure.
Nyford.
Yeah, and this is something that we haven't had regularly on the agenda, but we're very happy to share it. And just kind of moving forward, we've had a lot of staffing changes here in the past year, and we're looking to use the city's accounting software and program. I think it's right in your. It's stuck in as an insert.
Here we go.
You can have mine.
So we're looking to change the way we track our finances. Essentially, the RDA does have a budget in the city's annual budget, but it's more of just a pass-through budget. The city borrows money from the CIP through their CIP process for us to blight properties and purchase them and demo to help pay for a lot of those costs for the acquisition. And then there's also the CDBG funding too that we allocate annually in our action plan for the blight removal. So there's other funding sources that fund a lot of the RDA's activities. But something we want to try to improve on and move forward in looking in 2022 is really get a good idea of all of our properties we have, which you can see on the list here in front of you, and see how much it costs to maintain that. And that's snow, that's mowing the lawn. If the house has to be be demoed, what's that cost if we have to take, asbestos to the landfill, and just really have a clear picture of what all those houses cost us annually. And at the same time, trying to find, as we're looking to bank land and try to, build larger development areas just to see what that cost has been, those holding costs too for the RDA and the city. So moving forward, I can certainly bring you this information every meeting or a couple times a year, whatever everybody would like. But this is going to change a little bit the next time you see it because, like I said, we are looking to account for it in a different way moving forward in 2022. And we hope that it's going to be a little bit easier to read and understand, and we'll give staff some better tools to track all the costs per property.
This is terribly difficult.
Yeah, we're looking to try to make it a little bit more efficient, so doing a little streamlining and improvement of our processes.
Like I don't understand, there's a budget down near the bottom, 7208, land purchases, 1,100,000. Like, there's nothing actually that we didn't spend any money to buy anything this year. We bought properties.
That's what I thought.
In 2021?
Yeah, what is the date range for this?
So this is 21. If you look at the top, that 5299, that transfer from other funds, that's showing what was transferred in to the RDA to cover acquisitions.
Oh, okay.
So we
Different from what's budgeted. That budget is like a placeholder number, what we could spend up to in 21.
So that's just something that's kind of a shot in the dark that we have to do when we're putting the budget together in July.
But it still indicates we didn't spend a dime.
Nope, we spent 148,000
That's what was transferred in.
from other accounts.
So where does that show up as an expense, though?
It shows up in revenue. I mean, I'm sorry, there's not a better way of showing you this information, but that's a transfer in, and that would count as a revenue.
Right.
So that's either from TIF or SIP or CDBG, and that transfer would only occur for an acquisition.
Oh,
So these other numbers that are under the expenses, just, I guess, for example, the Franklin Street, $4,469. Is that the Ida and Franklin lot?
Which one?
Yes.
Number 75011?
That's Ida and Franklin? Yes.
I'm really curious what the $4,469 is because our neighborhood shovels and mows there. I cannot for the life of me think of what $4,500 would be spent on there.
He must be getting paid.
Nope.
Just hold on. We'll look.
I pay the kids in the neighborhood occasionally with pizza.
That's a special assessment for the sidewalk.
Sidewalk assessment.
Oh, I
Like the
see.
detail is provided on the following pages, broken out by each.
So if you go to
address.
the next pages.
Okay.
Thank
me-
you. This
The
is why I have
breakout.
Anna
Ask
here.
a question. Should we push to spend a lot more money?
Um,
And now that we have this data, might we want to push to spend more money?
yes and no.
Does the funds roll over, or do they go? Or
They
do
go, they roll over.
Okay, that's good to know.
So it's, yeah, so they roll over and the CDBG, not as much, I said, there's somewhat of a limitation with that, we have to use that within a certain period of time. But that's something Anna, works to keep track of the funding that we do have. Obviously, we want to spend it because we keep going back for the same amount every year and we're not spending it, we need to spend it, yeah. Like many others, we have looked at properties, but the prices are pretty high right now. So we have to be, conscious of that and make sure we're spending the money, in the right way. But certainly we can look forward and spend money if we do have it. But we want to make sure we're mindful of all of our redevelopment plans and strategically where it makes sense for us, as we are looking, on certain areas to focus right now, our redevelopment efforts.
Thanks for bringing this forward. It's helpful to see.
Yeah, and like I said, next time you see it, and that's really our intention, so it's easier for everybody to understand. And but we'll try to maybe in the next meeting bring forward kind of how we're going to present it, and hopefully it'll be a little bit more clear as far as all the costs.
Can I just ask another line item question? Sorry. Covanta Holding Corporation, what is that?
That was at 1004 South Main.
That's environmental services.
That was environmental liquid. So my guess is one of our demos, there was a storage tank and there was liquid inside of it and we had to dispose of it.
Okay, just curious.
Yep.
All right, yeah, thanks. This is a good start for us to start to fulfill our duties in that regard too. So appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, we will move on then to the CAPER, the 2020, is that correct?
That's correct, yep.
2020?
Yep, the CDBG program year is not a fiscal year.
Oh, right.
Yep. So this is,
Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. It's a mouthful.
so this is essentially just, our activities last year, well, not entirely last year, but let's just say for the 2020 program year. And we did, worked with a lot of different groups. The public service grants are something that we really reach out to a lot of different organizations in. And then obviously, working with the LMI folks, which we talked about earlier, is something that is one of our goals. So we have the report here, and I know we bring it forward to the RDA because, this group is, a steward of some of CDBG funding, so just so you are aware how it is spent. If there's any specific questions, we have a lot of the information right in the packet here, so we're happy to answer it. And we do have Emily Tardif, one of our CDBG staff persons that has helped with this in the past.
And we always, with these, we apologize for the formatting of it. It's directly out of HUD's system.
That's what Darlene used to say. My eyes have not gotten any better.
No, and it's,
See if we can blow it up to a.
we know it's difficult to read, but it's the system that HUD makes us use. So.
I know that as I was looking at this, there was a question about the number of properties, and I think it was under, because these aren't, oh yeah, CR 15, under the narrative, the discussion about priority areas, and 58% or 59% were spent on benefiting LMI. There is,
It actually, that number was incorrect. That was in here. That's something that we had worked with HUD. We accidentally allocated some of our admin fund in that, so it's actually 73.86.
Okay.
So I apologize, that wasn't updated in here. We had sent this to HUD, and then we just had updated one form, and it was not updated in the actual narrative. But yeah, up on the screen is the correct amount, 73.8%, 86%. Of LMI folks.
Here, we also had under CR 20, I think it's page 11.
Yeah, it says 11, yeah.
The number of non-homeless households to be provided, the affordable housing units. So we had the 1-year goal of 14, and there were 12. And I guess my question kind of goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of the meeting. Like, where in the CAPER does it reflect the day-by-day warming shelter for the homeless population, or is that not in CAPER?
No, it would be in CAPER, because these are our goals that we had.
Right.
So for the 2021 action plan, where we had included funding for the day-by-day, that was under community facilities and infrastructure. So it.
Show up in the CAPER until next year, correct?
Correct.
I see.
That would be the 2021.
Post, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, this is yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions, discussion? All right. Do we need to vote on
This is just an,
approval?
no,
This is just
FYI.
information?
Yep.
Okay. And then we're at number 9, Near East Neighborhood and Redevelopment Plan.
Correct. So this was one that we had talked about previously, and the Near East Neighborhood and Redevelopment Plan was a plan that actually the RDA initiated. And, talking with city staff, we think it was actually very successful. There was 2 neighborhood associations that are in this area now, and city staff really took a lot of those recommendations and implemented quite a few. So Mark Lyons is here. He's going to talk about a few things that we did implement. And then if it's something that the RDA does feel necessary, or it's appropriate, where we could terminate the redevelopment area since it has been implemented. So I'll let Mark talk about what has been completed.
Yeah, so planning staff started digging into kind of some of the outcomes of what have been achieved during this plan cycle. Most of the information I'm going to talk about, we were able to gather the 2014 to present data. I understand there's obviously this plan went in before 2014, but as we were kind of
2006.
as we were digging through the data sources and the stuff that we could readily find to make sure we could provide some information to you, started with 2014. So since 2014, trying to establish some of the objectives of this plan that were really outlined starting on page 9. As Kelly mentioned, the first one is 2 new neighborhood associations have been established in this area, those being Midtown and Historic 4th Ward. We have not been able to fully dig into the construction type and quality. Our permit data is a little difficult to sift through, so staff is currently looking through to help give you an idea of total reinvestment in this neighborhood. We're trying to filter that data and get it sliced down to the actual program area. But some of the data that we could quickly kind of get together for you were, since 2006, there have been 5 new homes in the area. There have been 14 block grant owner rehab projects undertaken in the area. H&I data I don't have available yet for how many H&I loan programs have been done in this area. We have been doing a number of dumpster days through Midtown Neighborhood Association to help with some of the cleanup activities that are called for within the plan. Code enforcement cases, we have about 650 code enforcement cases that have been established and rectified since 2014. Data, I'm just trying to dig through all my notes.
And I'm sorry, you're speaking specifically according to the redevelopment plan
Yeah, I'm
or the
speaking
neighborhood
The
plan?
redevelopment plan.
Okay, all right, just want to clarify that.
Yeah, because the neighborhood plan kind of preceded doing the
That
redevelopment
was an
plan.
epic fail.
Yep. Now, obviously, one of the great things that we do in our city now that we weren't doing as well in 2006 is better neighborhood planning. So Midtown has a neighborhood plan. Historic 4th Ward is up and coming for they'll be doing one of the neighborhood plans in the next couple of years. So the planning division in general has taken a lot more proactive role on neighborhood planning compared to what was done in 2016. So the numbers I'm giving are really more specific to the redevelopment plan
Okay.
that came from this original neighborhood plan.
Yeah, and we know we have this exact area, like on GIS, so we can pull the data for the specific area.
I have a question on your page 13. If you go down Main Street there, you see where there's areas that are carved out.
Yep.
Who determines how that plan is put together?
So back in 2006, when the plan was going through the planning process, that was what they chose to establish as the boundary.
The RDA decided that would be the
RDA would've
boundary.
Voted and then ultimately onto council, because redevelopment plans still do have to be approved to council. So the bodies would have recommended and approved that final layout for the boundary.
What criteria do they use?
I can't speak to specifically what was done in 2006.
And I'll just say, I asked for this to come back because this is such a dated plan, mainly because of the activity that has happened in recent years with regard to, more at the neighborhood plan level, but also the redevelopment plan itself. It's reached a point where, I just had asked staff, is this something that is still relevant, given that some of these things have been achieved and others are no longer related to recent plans? And I guess I'm just not sure that it's still consistent.
I guess I would come in a couple of ways on that. The neighborhood plan, I would say, no, not really longer valid. We have two full-fledged neighborhood associations that's now, one already has their own independent neighborhood plan and one will have one. So the original neighborhood plan that was done is probably really no longer needed. The redevelopment plan, I think, is it needed? There's some flexibility to determine if we want to continue with it. I think the nice thing is it did help guide a lot of policies and practices that the city has made mainstream since then, with some of our H&I programming, our block grant programming, our dumpster days to Greater Oshkosh Healthy Neighborhoods Edition. A lot of the things that this plan calls for, the city has better rolled into what we do as a city for our neighborhood. It still calls for residential redevelopment of the area as the primary development source. I think that's probably still valid. Whether we need the redevelopment plan to continue down that path or not is probably worth thinking about a little bit. But we've achieved a lot of what's in here, and I don't necessarily, with or without the plan, I think most of those activities will continue to press forward.
And, respectfully, I think I have a little different, and I will admit perhaps somewhat biased because I live right there at ground zero. When we talk about blight removal and definitions, the east side of Main Street kind of happens to be part of this redevelopment plan, and going into Jefferson and going towards the railroad tracks and that. And we've had, I guess, spot development and spot improvement, but we've also had long standing blight in some central target areas there. So is it something where this has to be either or, we keep this as is, or we get rid of it, or can we rethink this?
That is perfectly acceptable. We could look at we could terminate this redevelopment plan, do a new one. We could modify and update this redevelopment plan. There's options. Obviously, the benefit of a redevelopment plan is it helps focusing our efforts on where are potential acquisitions for blight removal.
Does anyone have a preference in the way we go to give direction to staff on this?
Would it be comprehensive? Like, how do you choose? Like, where to focus?
I mean, typically, we don't go out looking for redevelopment sites. It's if they come to us. If it's through the county, if it's through, a person wanting to sell their house, it's a receivership, it's a business owner, and we just say, okay, how does this fit into our puzzle? Does this make sense? And then if we think it does, we, bring it forward to the RDA. Something that we have talked about, and this might be a good future meeting item, is to take a look at all of our holdings, all the properties that we do have. And, you know, these have been acquired since the early 2000s, and some were land banking and we still hold. Does that same path and strategy still make sense? So if that's something that the RDA would, you know, appreciate to take a look and just really try to understand, you know, where we are, and maybe, you know, if we have a new redevelopment area that we want to focus on, if it's the South Shore, Sawdust District, wherever it may be, you know, maybe that's where we you know, really focus our efforts. It's just an option.
I think that's great. I would welcome that. I think it gives us the opportunity just to at least learn, talk.
Yeah, and I think that really coincides well with our housing study, that we have a draft plan, but we're very close to releasing. So I think when we talk about that housing study and the findings of it and some of the recommendations, that information will really work well, because I think the RDA will really play an important part of implementing that housing study and the recommendations that are part of it.
And it's used as a guide, right? There's nothing locking us into it, so it's great to have a guide, and we can choose to go outside of the guide for certain things that
Absolutely.
we find necessary. So I
Yep.
think that's great.
And I guess the other question I had too is, you know, since that time, this is in the opportunity zone, right? The other opportunity zone? Or is this excluded from that?
It is, I believe, I think Broad might be the census tract line, but I believe it is.
Yeah,
I'd have to look.
Yeah,
Trying to look.
I couldn't
I know
remember.
I know our properties on Jefferson are. I'm just not sure about the whole district, but I think Broad might be that boundary line.
So did either of you want to share anything then on the neighborhood plan itself,
Um,
or make a recommendation on that?
My general comment to the neighborhood plan is, you know, in 2006, we did things really differently than now. I think now we do a much better job with our neighborhood plans and actual establishment of neighborhood associations. We now try to tie our neighborhood plan to actual associations instead of general areas like
It's
this.
bottom up versus top down now.
Correct.
It's really grown out of the community. Instead of us trying to tell them to be a neighborhood association, we let it grow organically, and we've been extremely successful. We have one that just came to council. We have another one that may be coming to council yet by the end of this year. So our whole neighborhood development philosophy has really changed since 2006.
So are you kind of looking to say, let's be done with the way we used to do it, or is there?
I think RDA kind of took the lead, and to say the city, you know, they took the lead to try to jumpstart this. And I think we've learned a lot since then, kind of what Mark and Mayor Palmayer, you were saying. So I think we have a better route now. So not saying that anything in this existing plan is bad, it's good information, but we just have other avenues that, you know, account for a lot of these recommendations, or we've done it. So it's kind of the question, should we enhance it? Should we change it a little bit, which we can alter it if we would need to.
That's on the redevelopment plan side, and I guess my suggestion is, with the neighborhood plan itself, that be dissolved, because it no longer applies in many cases, and because there are now new formal neighborhood plans going into effect that cover that territory, it's like almost in conflict. Or do the new ones just supersede this and this just falls off by itself? We have to actively dissolve it.
Typically in these situations, we just overwrite them with newer plans, because neighborhood plans are not a statutory requirements that follow processes similar to redevelopment plans.
They're guides.
And if we wanted to take it to council and say, yeah, we no longer recommend this neighborhood plan as being advised, we could. I think the nice thing with these neighborhood plans is, you know, they're more discretionary. So if we kind of feel it's no longer appropriate, staff doesn't have to reference it as we do our projects.
I guess in my mind, because sometimes projects will forum shop or plan shop, right? Depending upon, you know, what a project is. And it could be confusing to have multiple plans, and I think when we talk about consistency, there could be some confusion there to have multiple guides, if you will, and that's just my thought.
And we could really just remove it from the city website and everything, so it's not a plan that we list as following by the city of Oshkosh.
That's not a bad idea.
Sure. I mean, it served its purpose, right? It was
Absolutely.
a learning opportunity of what not to do, and that informed how we did move forward. So in that way, it was, I guess, of benefit.
Yep.
Thanks.
And we're at the executive director's report.
Sure. Just for time's sake, I know we've been here
Remember
for.
the restroom? quick?
Sure.
Continue.
Continue? Okay.
Recess.
I read through it, so I'm okay.
No, that's okay. As you saw today, we had quite a few land sales. So city staff, Sean is really working hard on promoting our properties that we do have that are buildable, that we're not land banking. So we're trying to move those back onto the tax roll and hopefully get some new development. And as part of that, city staff, I go back to the housing study. We're going to be taking a look at our programs that we have, our housing programs, hopefully in early 2022, and just see if there's any, changes that should be made to encourage more of that housing and redevelopment on our infill RDA lots. So we're looking to continue that process.
Just real quick, Kelly, someone had asked me recently, I know we've done a lot better job with getting signs out on those scattered sites. Where could someone see a list of what's for sale at what price of these scattered sites right now?
Sure, we have a website, developoshkosh.com, and we actually have our industrial business park, our residential infill sites listed on there, and then just some resources to get them started.
Thanks for the reminder.
Yep. And then South Shore redevelopment, Mr. Art Dumke continues to own the Pioneer. We continue to work with him on different opportunities. Somebody had mentioned the Miles Kimball building. They are starting work, so we're excited to have them open. They're planning in 2022. And just another fact that I know that this group has been aware of, we did receive approval in the 2022 CIP to extend 9th Ave to the east. We're going to use the same railroad crossing, but it's exciting because we're finally going to have that straight shot from 9th from the interstate to the Pioneer. And work will actually be starting in late November, early December on part of the Riverwalk along Pioneer Drive. They're just doing some of the outfall work before winter. So it will continue to be open for the winter, but come spring, there will be a Riverwalk being constructed along Pioneer Drive from Main Street over to Pioneer Drive. So it's really exciting to see that coming forward. And then just some of our redevelopment projects with Chet Wiesenberg and Tim Hess, and then with the T-Wall staff. We continue to work with with them on their sites, doing a lot of environmental research, site investigation. We're fortunate to have that EPA grant that's helping us with that funding. So everything is still moving forward, and we're hopeful that all those projects will start in 2022. And then you probably noticed that merge is starting on parcel J. They call that the Maxon Corners. They're going to have 2 phases on that one parcel. So they're starting phase 1 right now. It's going to be residential units. It's going to have some walkouts right onto the Riverwalk. And then their second phase, which they're looking at 2022 for, that's going to have the mixed use where it's going to have the commercial on the first floor and residential units on the upper floors. And I don't know if anybody else has any other questions, but that's our projects.
I have a question on the multimodal trail.
Sure.
At Rainbow.
Yeah.
There was lighting on all of the rest of the Riverwalk.
Right.
Is there lighting gonna come at some point, or?
Emily, do you know that if there's going to be lighting on that trail? I'm not sure if it will, just because it's going through a city park. I'm not sure. It doesn't follow the exact specifications of the rest of our Riverwalk, just because it is in the park. It's more of a connector trail, but we can definitely see. I know some things, some of the lighting for other projects has been delayed.
Well, those blue lights along the water are beautiful.
The bollards,
right?
yeah.
And it would be neat to see that continue.
Sure.
along there.
Yeah, no, let me do some research and see that.
Okay. Morgan Crossing, phase 2. So this is talking about the funding plan, the site modified because of the ATC line. And the increase in costs, in that this is gonna request TIF assistance. Is this the TIF assistance that was already requested recently?
Yeah, this is Mr. Peter Youngbacher.
Yes.
And so, yeah, he had some increased costs, so he's still kind of working through that with the city to provide some of those eligible costs that the city council has requested.
Okay, so that's coming back, okay. And Jefferson Street, you know my favorite topic.
Yep, no, we continue to try to market that area, and we have received some interest in it, so continue to market it, and like you had said, with the brush and everything, that's something that we are working with,
And that cabling and everything, that's like a hazard,
I think, Sean, you had went out there and you said that was on somebody else's property, or was that on ours?
Yes. Yes, there's some that's on another property.
Okay.
You can have inspection.
that's ours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we can look after. So yeah, that's one that we're still continually trying to see if there's any other properties we can acquire in that area to make that a more developable area.
All right, well, this was a marathon meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And
No closed session today?
yeah, just a note that the second page.
Well, do we have any other business first?
I reached out to both parties to see if they were still interested in moving forward, and I did not hear back. So, the two items that I have here in the closed session.
Oh, okay.
So I guess I would probably say not, because I wouldn't feel right talking about it if I'm not sure if they want to move forward, so it's something I can bring back if I do hear from them again.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Both of them?
Yes. Yeah, I reached out to both, unfortunately.
All right. So then, we make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.